Alrighty, folks. Welcome aboard. Welcome to another stream of such. So what I am doing right now is I'm walking through just a live usage of the Red Camera app on the Hydrogen One. So some people had some questions about how what things use specifically in manual mode. So what we'll do is we'll walk through a couple of options here. I am intentionally we're gonna dime everything out and we're gonna just fuck around with some settings, and at that point we can figure out kind of what everything does, right? So start with some basic terminology. Upper right hand corner here, ignoring the right hand panel, right? Upper right hand corner we have what's shutter speed, right? Shutter speed controls the length of time that the shutter is open. So if you think about it this way, it's like blinds for your window, right? During the morning you want those blinds, you don't want the sun to stream in there, so you're going to keep your blinds as tightly closed as possible, only letting in a modicum of light. You don't need it to be blindingly light. But at night, you're going to open those things up because you want to have the most light possible, right? So it's about adjusting the amount of light that comes in there. When you couple that to ISO, which is in the bottom right, ISO is a sensitivity of what we're considering in this case virtual film, or the kind of virtual nature of things, right? So ISO, when coupled to shutter speed, can be quite a powerful tool because you can mix and match and find that real sweet spot where just the right amount of light with just the right amount of sensitivity. The general rule of thumb is the higher the ISO, some people can debate with this, can debate on this. The higher the ISO, the more noise or electronic noise you're going to introduce, right? Because if you think about it this way, it's like your eyes first thing in the morning when you open them up and they're super sensitive to light, right? You're not going to see the best picture possible, right? It's going to be a little bit, grainy. In other words, so what you're really looking for is kind of a good blend. ISO 400 is pretty much typical. Shutter speed of a quarter, 1/4 is a little bit, a little bit slow in this case. So the good news is on this preview, you're gonna get a sense for how that impacts, right? So if I change, and it dynamically will change the amount of light going in there. If I change this to 1/15th, you can already see that it's picked up a lot more color. You can see the freckles on the pumpkin, so to speak. But you also notice that the background is now dimmed out a little bit as well, and it's not as bright, it's not as harsh, right? So this is where we're going to start with the individual kind of experimentation side. So 1/15th, let's push it even further. So that's at 1/125th. So I think it's 125th of a second. I might be wrong on these measurements, so please don't quote me on that. But what we're looking at here is that now notice it's super dark at this point, right? So we're not, probably not the best mood. Right outside right now, it's kind of cloudy. The light that's coming here, I don't have any external lights on. I do have an LCD monitor out here in the back, right, which could be coloring things, except it's on a black background. I'm just giving you some complexities of my desktop, right? This, which is kind of an orangey red, you're not really picking up the colors there very much. I mean, stapler is bright. I put a black object in here. So you're not getting a lot of definition to the colors that are in place, right? You're not really going to see a ton of the color even on this red hydrogen emblem, right? If I bring it up close, not all that great. So what we've determined here is that this shutter speed is probably going to be a little less than optimal right now. So let's back it off a little bit. And let's go ahead and find, I think that's 1/30. We'll stop right there. So that's shutter speed. That's giving us a pretty decent place, decent amount of light into that. Now let's adjust the sensitivity, right? So let's go back this all the way down to ISO 100. So ISO 100 is going to be the least sensitive, right? As you notice here, it kind of darkens up. Now ISO 100 would require a lot of light. So think about 100 as being bright daytime. This is, I'm going to be shooting this under bright sun or bright lights, right? I don't need, I already have a ton of ambient light in the environment. I don't need a lot of excess light. I'm not really tuning this for sensitivity. Same thing with the ISO 200, 125, 200. Right, in these places, I would say anything less than 400 typically you're looking at something that's going to be a bright, well-lit subject. You know, back in the old days when you had the film canisters, right? You read the back of it would say, 400 would be for more, more of a cloudy day, more or more whatnot, and then anything less than 400 would be for bright sunny days. That was back in the day when you had to actually change this shit. Luckily now you don't have to. I can just dynamically change it. So 400 again, as we had already matched it, I get decent color. Like I'm getting decent perception here. My shutter speed can stay pretty good. I'm not looking very much about that. Now let's increase the ISO rating a little bit more. Start looking at 800. Now 800, that's a pretty good mix. Now we know 130 is kind of is a decent shutter speed for where it's at. It's going to take a pretty good picture. 800, so it's now a little bit brighter. I'm not overexposing to a certain extent. I'm seeing the freckles on here, and I'm getting a little bit more definition. So my sensitivity is actually pretty decent in this. I'm getting some of the color. I'm getting good color here. Still can't read red on the front of this, but that's fine. There's enough shadows going on. I'm getting the color off the bottom of the stapler here. You can see the color on the bottom here. Right, so it's actually a pretty decent mix. Like I would say between 400 and 800, these would be two good shots that I could take without doing much. So let's take a picture here. All right. Now it would normally show up in the preview, except my fat face is right down there, which we can do. And that's all well and good. God, my beard was long. So let's keep going. Let's push a little bit more. 2,000, 2,500. Now you start to notice this is getting really washed out, right? And if we pull up our histogram, close this down for a second. Pull up our histogram and move my face again. Move my face back to the middle. You'll see that everything is, there's not a lot of, you're not seeing a lot of colors. You can see it's kind of washing itself out. Now, on the flip side, you'll notice on the histogram that I'm not particularly pushing any one color too much. Like I'd say, the histogram you're going to use for a real quick and dirty reference chart. So now watch what happens when I change the shutter. 1/250th. I'll start to push this, push it. And here's a full washout. It's not going to give me the greatest amount of light. So, and obviously here, hardly any light whatsoever, not a lot. This would be where I could push my ISO up all the way to 6400, but you'll notice, and you should be able to see this even through the video, look, it's super grainy. You're starting to see a lot of electronic noise flicking around. With the autofocus, it's whatever. I could change this. I could dodge this by having the flash. And so that would give a little preview there. But generally speaking, when you start to deal with high ISOs, you're dealing with a higher amount of noise, and you're starting to look at in the histogram, looking at the peaks there. So generally I shoot 400. I'll shoot somewhere in the 1/30th to 1/25th range. I mean, you're not getting a massive amount of selection here. You can do, obviously, time shots. You can, one of the feedback things that people have been asking for is being able to do bulb or do some sort of controlled shutter release, which would be helpful in long exposure type situations. For example, you're going to do moon shots or whatever, but you're generally speaking going to be looking for a little bit more controlled release on that. So the other thing, as you're going through here, play around with your focus points. You can, it will return to 0 after a while, or return to center. Play around with your focus points, find something that mixes well. If you're going to shoot a brighter subject, like I'm here, I'm focusing down left. I'm going to shoot the edge of the keyboard over here. You have some flexibility, and you can mess around with the flashes, whatever. But hopefully that gives you a pretty good sense for what we're doing on the manual side. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions.